All right, we're going to start off this hour of the program by talking about the Prime Minister, Mark Carney. By the way, did you see what Mark Carney was up to yesterday? Get a load of this. The Prime Minister was entered in a 26-kilometer trail race. And get a load of this. Of the 120 competitors, he finished 58, a time of just 3 hours and 45 minutes. So that's what the Prime Minister was up to yesterday in the Halliburton Forest Trail Race. It's a race that takes place about 160 kilometers north of Toronto. So the Prime Minister was running quite a bit yesterday. Now we're going to begin this hour by touching base with Robert Fife. He's Ottawa bureau chief over at the Globe and Mail, and he is on the line. Robert, welcome back to the program.
Good morning.
So one of your latest pieces here in the Globe and Mail, you and Stephen Chase are writing this one. You take a look at a Liberal Party strategist, a top advisor to Mark Carney, Tom Pitfield. What should our listeners know about Tom Pitfield?
Well, he's not only a top advisor to the Prime Minister, but his company for the longest period of time, and Tom Pitfield was the chief digital strategist for the Liberal Party of Canada. In other words, they did all of the digital outreach. They did all the polling, all of that sort of stuff for the Liberal Party. So he was a very important campaign strategist, and now is sitting in the Prime Minister's office. But unbeknownst to anybody, although we know that data science is one of their major clients is with the Liberal Party of Canada, what we did not know that for many years, Philip Morris, the world's largest tobacco company, was also a client of data scientists and Tom Pitfield. They helped them out on marketing analytics, and the optics of this smells a lot, frankly, because the Canadian government has been trying for years to discourage Canadians from smoking and from using vaping products and nicotine patches and pouches and heated tobacco all along. So, I mean, to me, the story is that, the senior advisor to the Prime Minister, the key person in the Liberal Party of Canada's campaign strategies, was, working for big tobacco to try to get people hooked on cigarettes and vaping. And to me, I think it's rather immoral. The Prime Minister seems to have no problem with that. Here's a guy you just said who was out there running yesterday. Yeah. Obviously, he's not a smoker, and presumably he doesn't want people to smoke or to vape. But he doesn't seem to have any problem with the fact that his top strategist, his company, and Tom was deeply involved in promoting something that we know was very unhealthy.
So at a press conference, and this was just a few days ago, one of your colleagues asked the Prime Minister about this, right? And Mark Carney's words saying it's a non-issue, okay? That this story and any connections between Tom Pitfield and Big Tobacco is a non-issue. What do you say to that?
Well, I think he's wrong. I think it's disturbing and concerning that somebody so close to the Prime Minister is associated with a major purveyor of carcinogens. It's inconsistent with official government policy, and I think it's also it's not illegal or anything like that. But I just think ethically and morally, it's not right. And I think this is not going to damage Prime Minister Carney, but initially. But these are the kind of stories that start to add up over a period of time where you begin to chip away at your credibility. If you think it's okay to have somebody who's been pushing vaping and cigarettes on Canadians, then you've got to question the Prime Minister's own sense of morality.
And I know one of the questions that the Prime Minister deflected on was whether Tom Pitfield would recuse himself from discussions on health matters because of this.
Well, yes, and that's a very important question because the anti-smoking lobby is saying that at the very least, Tom Pitfield, in his very important role as principal secretary, should have nothing whatsoever to do with health policy. And give you an example, we've been waiting 4 years for the federal government to bring in regulations to ban flavored vaping products. This has been going on since 2021, and we know that his company's promoted vaping. One would hope that the Prime Minister would not allow him anywhere near any of these policies dealing with cigarettes and vaping. And we need to ask, I guess, we have to put it to the government, when are you going to bring in these regulations? There are 350,000 kids who continue to vape. And this is addictive. All the science is showing that.
Wrapping up here with Robert Fife from the Globe and Mail. Robert, I guess I want to ask you about just how important Tom Pitfield is to the Prime Minister. In the grand scheme of things, everyone inside the PMO, just how important he is. And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up this fact. He's the husband of Anna Gainey, who, of course, is the MP in the riding of NDG Westmount, which, of course, is of importance to our listeners here in Montreal. Just how important is this man?
Well, and more important than that, she's also the Secretary of State for Children and Youth. So,
interesting.
You had a shake on that one. Look, he's very important because since 2015, he's basically run the election campaigns for the Liberal Party of Canada through his work on data stuff. And now that he's sitting in the Prime Minister's office as his principal secretary, it's duties he shares with David Lametti, who was a former cabinet minister from Montreal. And the only other person really ahead of a senior to Tom and David Lametti is the chief of staff, so who is also a Montrealer. So he's a big player, and he will have a lot of influence.
So, Robert, listen, there is no government plan that I'm aware of that plans on distributing Marlboros to 10-year-olds, right? So I want to maybe press the brakes a little bit here and say, well, if there, is it really that it may impact, moving forward on the vaping products? That's the concern here, that regulatory-wise, Canada loves regulations, but on tobacco, they would tap the brakes?
Well, I mean, we have pretty stringent regulations on tobacco. What we don't have is vaping. Uh-huh. And the big tobacco companies, realizing that more and more people are not smoking, they've turned to these other products, particularly vaping and heated tobacco and nicotine pouches. So they're trying to pivot away from cigarettes to non-cigarette alternatives, which, by the way, are just as addictive. Yeah. I'm not saying that Tom Pitfield is necessarily going to even be involved in any of this, but I think there has been a delay in bringing in these regulations, and presumably this is going to come back to the government's table. And I think the anti-smoking organizations are saying he shouldn't have anything to do with it.
Robert, we're going to leave it there. I'll direct everyone to seek out your byline on the Globe and Mail website if they want to read your reporting on this story and more. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Robert Fife, Ottawa Bureau Chief over at the Globe and Mail.